Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I'm your host, Anne-Lyse Wealth. If today is your first time tuning in to the podcast, welcome. I'm excited that you're here. If you've been rocking with me for a while, well, thank you. I appreciate you. I'm glad that you're back. If you've been listening for the past few weeks, I'm sure you've noticed that we've been re-airing clips from previous episodes. And I wanted to, for the first episode back, to come on here and tell you how I'm feeling, where I'm going, and what to expect, really. Do you ever feel like sometimes you're just going, and you're doing things out of habit, not necessarily taking the time to figure out if what you're doing still serves this current version of yourself? For me, and I've been pretty vocal on the podcast about this, but it's been a while. I've been thinking about making changes to the podcast for a while, but I was just on go mode: life, family, business, clients, family business, travel, all of the things, right? So I didn't feel like I had the time to actually sit down and figure out where I wanted to take the podcast next. So it was important for me to hit pause and reflect, think about it. This is episode 117, you guys. I started this podcast over 2 years ago. And if you've been here since the beginning, shout out to you. I really, really appreciate you. But after 2 years, I thought, okay, this is the perfect time for me to reassess a few things. I was actually doing that for the podcast, but as far as just life in general. And I wouldn't say that I was sitting still, but I wanted to slow down a few things to really have the time to think things through. And yeah, I'm back. This is my first solo episode in a while, but I want to share with you that over the next few weeks, especially after August, you should expect some changes in the podcast. I'm still planning to talk about money and financial independence because I think it's part of how you get access to freedom and to really live the best life that you can. But I want to sprinkle in other topics like personal development. I want to have more entrepreneurship stories and more inspirational stories. So expect a few changes in the upcoming months. You probably will also have a new intro for the show and a few other things. But I wanted to just have a touch point with you all. And also for anyone who's listening who might be in a phase where they're just on go mode as well, just like I was in April, and I had to figure out a way to take a step back. Here are some questions that I've asked myself that hopefully you can ask yourself that can help you figure out if some of the things that you're currently doing still serve you at this point in your life. The first question is, why did I start this thing that I'm doing? Going back to your why and seeing if the why still applies today. So for me, I launched the podcast because I wanted to share information. I wanted to inspire dreamers, and I wanted to reach more dreamers, talk to more dreamers. That still applies, right? Now, how I go about doing it might be a little different, but my why is still very, very much so alive. So why are you starting it? Do you still feel the same way about it? I definitely feel like there are more dreamers to inspire and to empower and to give information to. So yes, that still applies very much so for me. Am I doing this out of habit, or am I doing this because it actually is in alignment with the goals that I have for the future and my aspirations? Because, in life, things evolve. The goals that you had 2, 3 years ago might not be the same that you have now. I know for me, when I launched the podcast, I didn't have an agency yet. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is, how do I use the podcast to benefit my agency? Next question that you can ask yourself is, does what I'm doing help me get closer to the goal? Because it's very important to know what your goals and aspirations are, but are you taking the necessary steps that can help you get closer to that? And is this one thing that you're doing, that you've been doing for months, for years, helping you get closer to that? And always, as you're doing things for a while, a good question to ask yourself is there anything that I can change to make things better, to improve the process? It's easy to do things out of habit, but sometimes there's a better way to do things. Sometimes there's new technology that you can implement in your process. There are new tools that you can use. So it's good to ask yourself, what changes can I make to improve or to do things better? Those are some of the questions that I've been pondering on for the past few weeks. And as I said, over the next few months, the Dreamers podcast is still alive and well. That's that. But expect some changes. And I hope that you will enjoy the changes. I would love to hear your feedback, though, as the summer ends and you start noticing maybe a few different things. It's not going to be like a night and day type of situation, but I would encourage you to keep your mind open as I start introducing new topics into the podcast. Really, I really want this next season to continue to be about the process behind building the dream, but to incorporate other parts of it, right? I'm big on personal finance. I'm big on talking about money. And I think that it's an essential part of the process. Like if you want to be able to live your best life, it's really hard to do that when you don't have freedom, and money gives you a certain level of freedom. But that's not the end all be all. It's always going to be for me a tool as opposed to the end goal. But in addition to that, I want to live a fulfilling life. I want to become a better person every day. So I want to talk about personal development. I want to talk about the things that drive me, drive other people. Please keep an open mind. I cannot wait for you to see like what I have in store when we come back at the end of the summer. Until then, we're going to air a few more new episodes. And then over the summer, I will be taking a break and you'll see a few reruns. All right, that's it for today. I hope you enjoy today's episode of the Dreamers Podcast. And I cannot wait to see you back here next week for a brand new episode.